Call our Thursday, December 5th, Forsyth Area School Board's board to order and our truth and taxation hearing to order. Let's open up with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Member Clerk, please take a roll call.
Member Tyson?
Here.
Member Ebeline?
Here.
Member Corcoran is absent. Member Hagelin?
Here.
Member Peterson?
Here.
Member Rayfield?
Here.
And Member Christensen is here.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting agenda with two changes. One change is that we're going to have our truth and taxation presentation and citizen input after agenda item 3 and the addition of 6.1 user ratings on Rob and Jeff. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I would just add that we had a rehearsal of our truth and taxation hearing at 5, but it seems the statute says it needs to be at 6, so we're going to do that first. And then after we have the presentation and the citizen input for the truth and taxation, then we're going to move to our regular meeting where we have our green cards and the rest of our meeting. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. And Director Rember, do you want to do our truth and taxation
Yes. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
presentation?
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. Getting ready for our taxes, we have our hearing tonight. We have 3 items on the agenda for tonight. We're going to talk about the district's budget. We're going to talk about proposed tax increases, and then we'll have time for public comment at the end. In the district's budget, we have different funds that we work through, and so our general fund is our operating costs. We have our food service fund, 02, that covers all of our nutrition services area. 04 is our community service fund. We have our building instruction fund, which does all of our bonds. Our debt service fund pays for those bonds. Our internal service fund is our medical and our dental fund. And then our OPEB post-retirement, we have a trust and then debt service to pay for the bonds that were issued. We'll go into our budget for the 24-25 school year. On the left-hand side in the maroon, you'll see that those were actuals. We're actually adopting the audit tonight, and so that'll be later in the meeting. We'll get into all of those numbers. The 24-25 budget, you'll see in the general fund, we have expenditures of about $93.4 million. We have revenues of about the same, so pretty balanced budget. Overall, we're expecting a fund balance of around 7.7 in the general fund for the 24-25 school year. In the food service area and the community area, they're pretty similar in budgets of around 5.5 million in expenditures and also in revenue. The food service fund has about a $1.2 million fund balance at the end of the 24-25 school year, and the community service has about 1.7. Overall, our construction fund, we will be doing construction at the high school this summer, and that's in the budget, and again, $10 million fund balance at the end. Our debt service fund pays for our bond payments. We know that we'll have about a $3 million fund balance at the end of this school year. For internal services, we know that we'll have about a negative $2 million budget at the end of 24-25. And then OPEB will have 364 in the trust part, and then the debt service part will have about 180,000 fund balance. For taxes for the payable 25, notices go out for each parcel in November 10th through the 25th. Each parcel is going to get background information on their valuation at the top. And then they're going to get each of the jurisdictions that tax them. So that's cities, counties, special districts, all of that. They each set their own levy, often based on state limits, which is including the school district. We get all of our limits through the legislature, and then the Department of Education calculates those, and then we put them on the levy. Again, that information is there. It talks about your voter approved, your non-voter approved, and then also when you're able to hear this presentation and provide feedback on the levy. Overview of the district's levy. The 25 levy is going up 2.7%, so about $913,000. The categories are based on changes within the categories that we'll go over right now. Again, the general fund, we're going to see a minor decrease in the general fund of about 1.4%. That's going to come through on adjustments that we had. So again, looking at that ability to, you put in enrollment in the levy system, then your actual enrollment happens 2 years later, and then they make the adjustments for what it is. So we saw a minor decrease there. Community service, we saw a bigger decrease in that. That's based on our school-age child care. We have students with disabilities in that area. We had been under levying for several years, and then we started levying for actual costs. And so when we did that, we finally caught up. And so our actual costs are there, and we don't get any more adjustments. So we see that decrease in the community service fund. The debt service fund is the last area. We see an increase in that. We know that the community in 2015 talked to us about our building upkeep and making sure that we're trying to do that to the best of our abilities. And so we're able to issue bonds to do that, and we've done that. And then we pay for that with our debt service fund. Overall, again, 2.7% increase. When you look at those property tax statements, you will likely not see that exact amount on there because there's lots of things that go into it. Individual property values can change. The overall tax value within the community can change. There can also be increases and decreases in the individual amounts because of state funding and age shifts. There's a couple legislative changes that were important this year. They provided increasing to the homestead exclusion, and they also did an increase in the first tier limit for the egg area. Really important that we make sure our community knows that if they're struggling at all with their property taxes, we have 3 programs that are available to them that can help them through the process. If anyone has questions about that, we're always available in here to get the information, and you can just give me a phone call and I can walk you through which program might be best for you. With the information on the school budget and also the proposed taxes, we now will take public comment on that, and then later on in the meeting, we'll be able to certify the levy.
Okay, do we have, so the next item on our agenda is to take public input on the tax levy only. The green cards we'll do later, but is there anybody who would like to speak on the levy? Anyone who would like to speak on the levy? Anyone want to speak on the levy? If not, our truth and taxation portion of the meeting is complete, and we're ready to move on. Does that sound right? All right. All right, we didn't have a listening session tonight because of our truth and taxation green cards. So Savannah Sanchez, would you like to come up and speak and just introduce yourself and say where you're from, and you'll be speaking on policy 425.
I'm Savannah Sanchez, and I'm a senior at the Forest Lake High School. Hello, my name is Savannah Sanchez, and I'm the member of the executive board at the Forest Lake Student Council. Tonight, I would like to speak about statements that were brought up at the November 14th board meeting in reference to policy 425, the harassment and violence policy, which is also on the agenda of this meeting. Last month, we attended the board meeting to present what we've been up to at the high school and inform board members of what we plan to continue to do throughout the year. Before we spoke, we witnessed a member of the public speak on what she believes needs revision in our harassment policy. As we sat there listening to her, we were in disbelief as students at the Forest Lake High School. She stated a derogatory slur continuously and believes that the word is acceptable. As the leadership of Student Council, we have no tolerance for the use of slurs in personal or professional environments. Any of those actions here at the high school are not tolerated, and we believe that everyone belongs and has a place here regardless of their identity. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jen Gajeski.
Kayeski. I'm just going to set my timer so that I stay on track here. Good evening. My name is Jen Gajewski, and I'm a paraprofessional in our district, and I have been for 20 years. I would first like to take a moment to say thank you to members Raphael and Peterson for your years of service to our community and for being a friend and supporter to all Rangers. Thank you again, and good luck on your next adventure. I would also like to take a moment to speak about a comment made during the Greek card portion at the November 14th school board meeting. A community member used their right to put in a green card and speak to the school board about the harassment policy, and in doing so mentioned the use of what I will refer to as the R word in our schools. One of the things that I believe that not only myself but everyone in my group does is to make sure the students in our care are being respected and treated with dignity. The use of this word does the opposite of that. Paraprofessionals often hear this word being said to our students in cruel and undignified ways, which is why when sitting in the audience at that school board meeting, I was shocked and upset. I'd like to take a moment to give a quick history on the word and why people consider it hate speech. The R word was originally introduced in 1961 for people with intellectual disabilities. And in the decades since, that word has become an insult used in everyday language. Those who use the word often do so with little regard for the pain it causes people with intellectual disabilities, their families, their friends, their teachers, and their caregivers. In a study done by Kantar, a research group, they did a social listening study that looked at nearly 50 million social posts in the US over 2 years about people with intellectual disabilities. And here are some sad facts. Over 2/3 of those posts were negative, and nearly 29 million contained slurs, for example, using the R word or other word combined with the ending of tard. In 2010, Rose's Law was signed, which changed mental R word to intellectual disability. This law was named for Rosa Marcelino, a child with Down syndrome, and it aimed at promoting inclusion and a people's first language. For example, my son has autism. I never say my son is autistic. I put him first. Using the R word continues to hurt people with intellectual disabilities, and whether intended or not, it is a slur and a form of bullying. Wanting to stop the use of this word has nothing to do with being woke, being oversensitive, or infringing on people's right to free speech. Stopping the use of this word is a step toward respect for all. And as a community, we should want people with intellectual disabilities to feel included, accepted, and embraced for who they are. We should want to see the person with a disability as a person instead of just a disability. And I'm hopeful that we can use this situation as a community and start creating an environment with compassion and acceptance for all. Thank you.
Jennifer Tolzman.
I'm going to do that. Good evening. I'm Jennifer Tolzman. I live here in the community, retired educator, very proud of my time in Forest Lake area schools. And I'm here tonight to say, first of all, thank you to all of you for your work on behalf of students and families in Forest Lake. But especially I'm here to offer gratitude to Rob and Jeff as they transition off the board in the near future. Jeff, I did not get to serve in partnership with you during your board tenure, but I did get to know you when I was serving as the district office liaison to Wyoming. I knew from the get-go that you and Lisa were thoughtful, concerned about the district, doing what was needed to offer the best possible opportunities for children, while also being fiscally responsible, excuse me, and good stewards of resources. You continued down that path as you partnered with and steered the board in your years of service. Rob, I really can't remember when we became colleagues and friends. It was at least 20 years ago, at least. And it's been such a gift. We collaborated on so many projects, shared many meetings, we laughed. There was always some laughter no matter what. And there might have been a few tears here and there, but through it all, you and Kim have been diligent warriors for Forest Lake area schools and for justice and equity. Rob and Jeff, one thing I've always seen in your work, both of you, is your care and concern for all employee groups of Forest Lake area schools. I dealt mostly with educational and teaching and learning, but you championed all who touched the operations and opportunities for children, families, and the community. You were always quick to thank and recognize the work of any employee who provided safety and well-being for all in the schools. You worked to keep education at the forefront at the state level, asked good questions, and fought the good fight. So to close, I quote from Arthur Ashe, tennis great, independent thinker, thoughtful advocate for many, and he said, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And a friend and colleague of mine added this closing, it will be enough. You have both done enough. Thank you for your tireless service and energy. And I wish you every happiness along with good luck and the knowledge that you are greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Karen Moorhead.
I bet you're worried I don't have a script because I could go on and on and on. But tonight, I do want to say some positive things about two people that I worked with for a long time. And I'll start with Rob. Smartest thing he ever did was marry Kim, the girl from St. Bernard's and Rice Street, and have her as a companion, and all of the achievements that we've been able to do together were able to be done because while we disagreed on a lot of things, they were always kept outside the boardroom. And I think that says an awful lot for you, that we can have strong opinions, but when we're here in the boardroom, we're here to talk about the kids and the families and keep our information, you know, the other kinds of information private. And we had a lot of fun doing that too. I didn't quite get you where you're supposed to be, but now you maybe have more time to study. Anyway, and Jeff, I tell you, I learned more about unions, and I think you learned a lot about Republicans. And it was such a beautiful thing to be able to work together for this district, for the kids, for the teachers, for the administration, and know that if we don't listen to one another, and if we don't try to see the good in each other, nothing will ever get better. And so we tried, remember, to start a listening party, because we thought everybody should listen more. And we only had 2 members, so it didn't go very far, but you know, maybe still that could work out, because you were always willing to look at another idea, and you taught me to do the same. So between the 2 of you, I was honored to be on the board with you and accomplish all of the good that we did. And with the levy passing and our district being brought up to where it should be, I'm so proud to be a part of that with you. But we're going to miss you. And just wanted to thank you for all your time. And remember, you don't have to disappear. You can join a committee. So thank you.
Bill Nystrom.
I'm Jill Landstrom, community member, Rob and Jeff. I want to thank you for your many years of service. I had the privilege of being on the school board with you both for 8 years and consider you both good friends. Your dedication and commitment to our schools and kids has been impressive. Your one and only goal for this position was to advocate for our students and make our district awesome. Your knowledge, excellent communication skills, and ability to be team players enabled you to be school board rock stars. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your honesty and integrity. Thank you for making a positive difference. And to the new school board members, good luck. You have very big shoes to fill. Thanks, guys. Love you.
Andy Stoicki.
Good evening. My name is Andy Stoicki. I'm a dean at the high school. My wife and I have 3 kids, a senior, a sophomore, and a 7th grader, all in our schools, and we live in Wyoming. First of all, I just wanted to give a thanks to all the board members. You have a very complex and often thankless job. You have taken on a great responsibility that impacts so many people. But tonight specifically, I do want to say thank you to Rob and Jeff for their time on the board. Rob, your unwavering support for public education and for the students and staff of our district will be missed. At staff meetings, you always spoke so passionately about how public education can change lives for the better. You always reminded us that from the day our students get on the bus in the dark in the morning to the time they leave, they interact with bus drivers, paras, cooks, teachers, custodians, and administrators who care about them and how important those relationships are in our mission. You have always fought for what you believe in, and for all of that, thank you very much. Jeff, hard to believe, we first met 21 years ago. I taught your oldest daughter, Kayla, in first grade, and then a few years later, I was lucky enough to teach Will. And I can honestly say getting to know families is one of the most important and enjoyable experiences teachers get to be a part of. I got the opportunity to work with your family at a time when parents and educators being a team is so important. You have a wonderful family, and thanks for letting me to be a small part of Kayla's and Will's education. Thanks for being the first board member I can remember from Wyoming. That's important that I can remember. If I'm wrong, please let me know. You believe in what we do, and you stand by our staff and our students. You always fight for staff to be respected for our work and for trying to improve working conditions so that teachers will want to stay in Forest Lake. Thank you, Jeff. And I just want to say thank you so much to both of you. You will be truly missed. Thank you.
Kathy Meister.
Good evening, Superintendent Massey, Chair Raphael, and members of the board. I too wanted to say a few words tonight to Jeff and Rob for their incredible service on the board over these past few years. Jeff, while I didn't have the honor of serving alongside you as a board member, I wanted to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for your service to our students, staff, families, and community. I know what a commitment it is, and your efforts have not gone unnoticed or unappreciated. Thank you so much for your dedication and impact. Rob, the voters may have spoken, but they clearly didn't understand what they were losing. You have been a relentless and tireless advocate for all students, ensuring that every single one had a proverbial seat at the table and a voice that mattered. Whether championing mental health initiatives, supporting LGBTQ students, or making tough budget decisions to preserve the arts and trades programs, the only things that inspire some students to come to school each day, you have always been unapologetically bold and unwaveringly student-centered. Your passion and commitment haven't just moved the needle. For me, they've redefined what it means to lead with heart. While your name may no longer be on a plaque at the dais, your impact is etched in the lives of countless students, families, and this grateful board colleague who had the privilege to serve alongside you. One indelible memory I'll always cherish is our Building the Future Together team in the basement of Vanelli's, wrapped in giant maroon and gold ribbons, celebrating the bond passage with equally gigantic smiles. There you were, front and center, embodying the joy and determination that has defined your service all of these years. This community will deeply miss your voice at the table, your passion and dry wit in the room, and your unwavering belief that schools should be places of hope and belonging for everyone. And let's face it, it's been said already, no one can fill your shoes. Rest assured your legacy is secure and your impact unforgettable. Thank you, Rob and Jeff, for everything. Don't be strangers. Forest Lake area schools still need you, maybe now more than ever.
Diane Georgie.
President Raphael, board members, and Superintendent Massey. I'm here this evening to express my sincere gratitude to board members Raphael and Vice President Peterson for their incredible service and unwavering commitment to our students, staff, and community in serving as members of our school board over the past many years. As parents themselves of children who attended Forest Lake area schools, as well as engaged members of our community, they have been true advocates for our schools, always putting the best interest of students first. From their participation in educational and celebratory events like Career Exploration Day and Festival of Cultures, to walking proudly in the 4th of July parade, they've been leaders who instinctively connect with and inspire those around them, including parents, community members, business leaders, educators, and district staff. During their years on the school board, President Raphael and Vice President Peterson have also helped guide our district through some very challenging times. They've supported tough decisions during budget reductions, communicated the critical need for an operating levy and building bond, and helped to problem solve and provide clear communication as we reimagined our instructional model during the COVID pandemic. Throughout these challenges, their leadership, vision, and dedication to the success of our students have made a lasting, positive impact on our schools, and we are incredibly grateful for their work. President Raphael and Vice President Peterson have been unwavering in their support for our educators, and they have consistently prioritized decisions that are in the best interest of our students. Their advocacy and collaborative spirit have strengthened our district and helped shape it into the supportive learning environment that it is today. President Raphael and Vice President Peterson, thank you both for your years of service, your tireless efforts on behalf of our students, and your commitment to our community. Your legacy will continue to positively impact Forest Lake area schools for years to come. We wish you all the best in the next chapter of your lives, and we hope you will continue to stay involved in the school community that you've helped build.
Thank you. Dr. Mattson. Can help it, but introduce you that way. It's of course a habit.
Well, good evening, Superintendent Massey and school board members. My name is Linda Mattson, and I'm a Forest Lake resident and a retiree after working in the district for 36 years, with 16 years working with the school board as the Director of Teaching and Learning and Superintendent. I had the opportunity to work with and get to know Jeff Peterson through levy and bond campaigns and as a school board member. Jeff, your direct style, your passion, and your willingness to understand the importance of your work as a school board member is impressive. Your confidence in working through and navigating complex and complicated issues and situations served our district and community when we needed it. Rob Raphael has served on the board for many years, and I cannot remember a time that Rob was not all in on caring for the district, the students, and by that I mean all students, and staff, and I mean all staff. Rob, you could write a book on service to a community. From the challenging times of inadequate funding to perennial budget cutting, to colliding perspectives on how a school district should be run, to the exciting and wonderful times of welcoming new staff at the beginning of each school year, of passing a $143 million bond, and to handing out diplomas at graduation, to name just a few. Thank you to both of you for your leadership and for your caring. And thank you to your families who have been such an important part of supporting your work and your passion. You will both be missed in a myriad of ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I was going to speak during positive happenings, but if the board doesn't mind, I'll do it now. And I'll give Member Peterson a chance too. It's been the honor of my life to work in this district. I became a school board member knowing very little about education other than my kids went to one of the elementary schools. And I saw what those schools meant to them. But when I became a school board member, I got to see something that was incredible and that impacted the lives of so many kids in such a positive way. And for me, I mean, I could go through all the accomplishments that were done and just the excitement of being a part of them, because each one of those things, whether it was one of the first things I worked on, the anti-bullying policy, the OVS work, and you know, all the way through to the you know, going to look at each of the buildings and figuring out how to update them for modern academic standards, and that work ending up being the big bond reconstruction and the beautiful new science wing. Just being, you know, yes, I was a school board member, but there was this energy and excitement of all these different people. And, you know, as people have come up to speak, it's just my mind is filled with just how all those things could not have happened if all those individuals had not been a part of it. And the thrill for me is having been one of those individuals that were a part of it, right? And I think, like, you know, Member Byström, when you showed that picture, everybody in that room was critical to that bond passing. And everyone who was a part of it can be proud when they drive by these buildings and drive by the new stadium, because that could not have been built without that other work. And that other work on the bond could not have been done without all the work that went in to the 2008 levy. And all that work was critical. All of these things just build upon each other, and they're built upon the heart and love of all these people. And so I know Andy Stoicki talked about, you know, my presentations at the beginning of the year, but there's an energy in that room that when you get up to speak, that you are feeding on and you are directing back. And for me, when I gave that speech, it was always about reflecting back the good intentions of everybody in that room. And that's why it was so important, because everybody in that room was about giving kids something special. And I've served with so many different people and 3 different superintendents, Superintendent Steenblock, Madsen, and Dr. Massey. And, you know, they've just been a role model for me, and they've led this district. And yeah, so for me, I'm kind of choked up, but it's partly because I am so grateful to have been a part of what has happened here, because what has happened here is so important for our kids. And I recognize that, and I'm honored to have been a part of it. So thank you for your comments.
Well, now you have to follow that. Wow. So mine will likely pale in comparison to Member Rayfield's comments, but I remember when I first got involved in when I first got involved, it was way back when my wife would drag me to the PTA stuff and be like, you're gonna move all this equipment because you have a truck and we need to move. And, you know, like most dads, I jumped right in there because that's what I'm gonna do, 'cause I know it's good for me. And then slowly I got more involved, and we had the first building bond campaign, and I got involved, and I sat on the task force, and we moved through that process, and it failed. And we were devastated as a family. We debated moving. Like, if the community doesn't support education, maybe it's not the community for us. And we sulked for about 3 weeks, and I came and met Superintendent Madsen after work one day and said, okay, what's it gonna take to do this again? And she was like, it's gonna be a while, Jeff. We have to raise a bunch of money, and we've got a bunch of stuff to do. And I said, okay, well, how much is a bunch of money? And she was like, well, 50 or so $1,000 bucks. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a problem, I can get that. And she looked at me like I was nuts, like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I can get it, we can do this, don't worry about it. And that day started a process for me where I got more involved, and I saw some of the issues that we were facing as a district, and I really dug in deep, and I helped raise a bunch of money to do the bond campaign. And I remember being there in the basement when it passed by 248 votes. And I remember thinking about the number of conversations I'd had with people at the door, and talking to my fellow carpenters, my brothers and sisters in my union, saying, you live here, this is our school, you need to show up and vote, this matters to us. And then running for board, being talked into it by a few folks who were on the board and saying, no, you need to do this, we're doing a construction project, you'd be awesome on the board to have that knowledge while we do this. And man, did I drink from the fire hose day one when they bring you in for board orientation, because I truly had very little knowledge of what actually a school district does at that time. Because you think they educate children, but really they educate an entire community. They support the community. They provide, the district provides so much for the entire community. And I'm super proud to have been a part of it. I'm proud to have gotten to know so many people in the audience. And I sat here, and I'm not used to people coming and saying nice things about me. I was the chair during COVID, and we've forgotten what that was like. A different experience. But I could go on. It's been an unbelievable experience for me. I'm proud to have been able to be here and hold this seat and support the school district and work with all of you as board members, as fellow board members. Get to know all of you in the audience, and the opportunity to work with you and know your families. And some of you got to know mine and teach my children, which I'm ever grateful for, because they now can read and write and do all the things, and they're successful. 2 of them are successful adults who've moved into the workforce and own homes, and I'm proud. And I sent an email last meeting, because we had some folks here at our last meeting who got to see what I don't believe is the majority of Forest Lake. And I was super proud then too, because I could see the body language and the reaction of our student council sitting in the front, and know that we've done our job, and know that these folks understood who we really are, our students, and what we represent as a district. So thank you guys for coming back. I'm sorry that was the last meeting you attended, but thank all of you for attending tonight. I'm honored to have said that you've said such nice things about me. Member Moorhead, I was honored to serve with you. It was a great experience, so thank you. Member Landstrom, again, it took me like 3 meetings after you changed your name for me to get it right, but I was honored to serve with you. It was fun. We've become friends outside of this, and so many relationships, so many positive experiences through this service on the board. So I just thank you all. It takes a community.
Agenda item 5, student achievement. Forest Lake View Elementary, Principal Ernest.
I can do what Chrissy Renberg did. I'd love to stand here. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So that I can talk to everybody. Awesome. Dr. Massey, school board, thanks for having me tonight. I also want to say a big thanks to everybody on the board. Your job is extremely challenging, and we appreciate everything that you do. Jeff and Rob, like everybody has said, thanks for all you have done, and you'll be greatly missed. And it's always great to hang out with you guys, because the positive energy that you have just touches everybody. So thanks for everything. And also a big thanks to everybody here, because this is quite a crowd, and we have some amazing folks here, whether you're Forest Lake staff, whether you're a Forest Lake student, they all left, no, there's some here, good, and whether you're from the community too. So thanks for all you do. I thought I could touch on just all the excitement that we're going through with the consolidation of Forest View Elementary and Forest Lake Elementary. And so I just wanted to touch on some topics that we've had and some of our meetings that we've had as we move forward for this big consolidation. So I guess I need the clicker here. We were very fortunate between Principal Stegmeyer at Forest Lake Elementary and myself. We sent out an email to see if anybody was interested in joining our committee. And we actually did turn some folks away because we had too many people interested, which is awesome. We actually have 8 staff members from Forest Lake Elementary, and we have 7 staff members from Forest View on our consolidation team, and there's some peers in this room that are also on that team. Chrissy Remberg and Kelly Wilson and Sarah Heckel at the district level have joined us in these meetings as well. We started on October 14th. We had our first meeting. We concentrated on really talking about what we want our building culture to look like, feel like. We've brought up topics such as building name. What's that going to be? We wanted to really touch on staff morale. This is a big deal when you combine 2 buildings. We don't want Forest View to still stay Forest View, because we have everybody getting together, and it's going to be everybody on this team. It's not Forest Lake anymore. It's not Forest View anymore. We're going to be together. So we really want to focus on what that's going to look like, bringing 2 awesome staffs together. We concentrated on coming up with some events that we could get the staffs together. We had a big potluck lunch. That was our biggie that we've had so far. And I think there were also some folks that went to, I don't know what it's called, Coach Bingo, the purses. So there was some purse bingo action as well. So a couple of fun things. We've taken a look at what our timeline is going to be. We're trying to get folks, we want people to know as soon as we possibly can on where people are going to be. So that's one thing that we've really been focusing on with this consolidation team. After that first meeting, we sent out a survey. We just asked all our staff, what do we want to know? What do we need to know, so that we're not missing anything? So we went to our second meeting then, October 28th. That was 2 weeks later. We really wanted to focus on some different things that go on in our building, our PBIS. We talked about what that looks like at Forest View and at Forest Lake, and what that's going to look like when we combine. We wanted to take a look at our leadership teams, whether that is the Sunshine Committee, if that's PLCs, our ILTs, all of our committees. We want to know what our intervention is going to look like, whether that's with our reading support, our math support, our behavior supports. So we talked about that. We're both Title I buildings. We want to know what that's going to look like, so we've talked about that. We have some pretty good things that we're talking about there. So that was second meeting. We focused on that. Third meeting, we did go through all of the survey results that we received. I'm going to share a few of those after this slide. But we talked about the survey, and then we kind of looked at logistic pieces. What's the communication going to look like to our staff? What it's going to look like to our families? We wanted to talk about what is SAC and Sonic going to look like. what are our spaces between our building gonna look like? Are we gonna use all the playgrounds? Are we gonna be able to take everything from Forest Lake and put it in Forest View? What's transportation gonna look like? I don't know if any of you drive by 4th Street at 3:45. That can get pretty crazy with both of our buildings, everybody getting on the bus or parent pickup since COVID has just like blown up. So we have a ton of people. And then our special ed busing too. We really had a good system before COVID, and since then it's been challenging. So we want to really look at that, and we want to get all those pieces put back together so it makes life a little bit easier. And then thinking about materials. At our meeting, our last meeting, we had a, what day was it? It was when? No, Tuesday night. We talked, Cherie, our librarian, and then Katie from Forest Lake, they talked about how and when are we going to get all these books from Forest Lake to Forest View, and how is that going to look, and how much time is that going to take? So there's just all sorts of pieces that we're thinking about.
I heard that Member Peterson has a truck.
He does have a truck. We're going to call him. Sure. Yeah. I think Caldwell still has a truck. I'm going to get all the trucks over there. So that was our third meeting. One thing that I wanted to touch on, and I'm not going to read everything, but one of the questions that we asked was, what is going to be a positive for you as you look at this consolidation? We had 52 staff members respond to the survey, and I would say that might be a little under 50%. I think we have about 115 staff members, or 120 members if you count Forest View, Forest Lake together, but that's not too bad. But these were some of the positives that came up. This was from Forest View staff and Forest Lake staff. So better fit for 6th graders. It's believed that 6th grade students will benefit from the middle school environment. Reduced transitions, that was going to be huge. Some of the benefits for K-5, the continuity and the consistency. Kids won't have to move from 3rd grade in Forest View to 4th grade, and less transitions. So a lot easier on the kids. We feel like we're going to have some stronger relationships, leadership and mentorship, having some old kids in the building with little kids. That's going to bring everything back together. We can do buddies with those older students, those younger students. We just haven't had that with 3rd grade being kind of our old kids of the building, so it's really exciting to have that. More opportunities for collaborations. We'll have more teachers, which will be super exciting, and just improve our school culture altogether, bringing everybody together. Increased collaboration, opportunities for professional growth. I think the transition piece is really going to be huge, and then we're hoping for a lot of improved student behavior. We'll have some more support. We'll have those old kids that will be showing the young kids what it's like to be a great student and be great role models for those young kids. So really looking forward to that. Cost savings. Some staff wrote that. Absolutely, consolidating into one campus, just the efficiency of one building compared to 2. We've had a combined PTA for the time since I've been there. We have to send things out at Forest View. We have to send things out at Forest Lake. We don't have to do that anymore. So we'll just have one building. The families have one building, and that'll bring everything together. Better teacher-student connections. Those kids will be in one building for 6 years, which will be amazing. Support for students with IEPs, more collaboration between staff, probably longer time with staff working with students. And then the family and community impact, siblings in the same school, stronger family-school connection, and just that community cohesion, bringing everybody together. It's not Forest View and Forest Lake, it's one building. So those are some positive comments from staff. So Tuesday, this past Tuesday, we had our 4th meeting, and what we discussed was taking a look now and moving forward and having some subcommittees. And these, you can see, are our 6 staff subcommittees that we came up with. We're going to have a PBIS team, we're going to have an operations team, we're going to have a master schedule team, we're going to have an intervention team, special education team, and then a staff bonding team. And So we met, we talked about those committee members that you saw on the screen earlier. They all chose one of these subcommittees, and we're excited to have them on those committees. And then Emily and I sent out emails, and Chrissy, we sent that today. And so we opened that up to our whole staff. If anybody else wants to join the subcommittees, they can do that. Also Tuesday night, we had PTA join us, so we had some family communication, and that was really important too. We had just those special events and traditions that have always been going on in 6th grade or 5th grade. What are we gonna do with those? Are we gonna continue those? Are those gonna go down to 5th grade now? So a lot of good discussion there. And it's amazing how many things are actually going on, and you forget about that. And so it's like really important that we make sure that we remember everything that we've had going on, and we wanna make sure that if it's important to our staffs, we continue those. And if it's not, then we're gonna put it to the wayside and we're gonna move on and do something new. So we're gonna have the subcommittee meetings. We're gonna start those. We're gonna take a little break, and we're not gonna meet between now and break time, and we're gonna have our first meeting on January 14th. So we have 3 more meetings that we wanna get together with the subcommittees. And I also want to just say, like, the purpose why we're doing the subcommittees. We're going to use the subcommittees as that advisory committee that's going to come up with some hopefully great ideas and suggestions and bring that to us as an administrative team and help us implement everything in this awesome building, whatever it's going to be called. We're really looking forward to it. So I thought I'd just give you a little taste of what we've been doing. And anybody have any questions about that?
Yes. Question that I would have is that, do you see any need for reconstruction or facilities work, like even or in the parking lots or the motion through there?
No, I think we're in good shape. I mean, I really do. We've been through the building. We've done walkthroughs. Our classrooms are in pretty good shape. I mean, the building is old, but it's really been kept up, and I think we're decent. We're gonna take advantage of like Forest Lake Elementary's parking lot because that's phenomenal still too, and our parent pickup area too. So we're gonna still hopefully try to use some of those pieces at Forest Lake Elementary. But yeah, I think we're good. We're in great shape.
I kind of have a question along the same lines as Member Rayfield. What about the cafeteria? I know that initially through the bond it didn't really get touched. Is it big enough?
Yeah, I think we're going to be fine there too, because we will, we might have to add an additional time to the lunches, because then we'll have to extend that possibly, but then we'll be able to get more kids in there. I think our tables are great. I mean, they're in great shape, and the kitchen has been kind of updated as well. So I think we're going to be fine. We just have to take a look at exactly how many kids are going to be there. I don't know if we'll be able to keep the same lunch schedule that we have now, but we'll probably have to do that. Yeah.
I know Cross Anderson Companies did a great capacity study, so.
Yeah.
But any idea how you're going to go about the process for selecting a name?
Well, that's one important piece. We've talked about it. We've discussed it as the committee, but it's one thing that we want to bring back to the admin team, and then we'll move forward with that. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, maybe Forest Lakeview.
We've heard a bunch. I will share one of the coolest things we heard. I think it was Mary Reapy, who's the head cook at Forest Lake Elementary. We talked about how, people are having a difficult time because Forest View feels like Forest Lake's going to come here. They're going to take over their rooms. Forest Lake is coming over, and they feel like maybe we're just going to get put someplace and be left, and it's like we don't want that to happen. So we talk about our Student of the Month programs that we have. We do the Student of the Month. Forest Lake does Ranger rallies. So we were going to talk about how maybe naming like, let's say they end up in this wing where it might be perfect for them. We may call that hero hallway, because they have the heroes of the, I think that's what they call them, heroes. So we were just like blown away by that. So you hear all these great ideas, so now it's just gonna be a matter of, what are we gonna do with it?
My wife and I both had houses when we got married, and she moved into mine, and she's held resentments about it. And ever since, so, be careful. Well, I know that, you know, your staff already has full-time jobs, and that this is just one more thing, and so be sure to pass along that we really appreciate the extra effort they're doing to get this all worked out. I think it's like my example showed, it's important to get it right and be very respectful and understanding of the views that people have, and so give them our thanks for that extra work that they're doing, and let them know that they're appreciated.
I would echo Member Rayfield's comments on the thanks to the staff, because I know it's a lot of work, and I would also encourage you, some of the staff, to reach out to some of our middle school staff who has gone through this not all that long ago, and see both what it was and what it can be when you're done. Because what I think it is today is pretty good over there. So.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, have a great night.
All right, positive happenings. Anybody have a positive happening that I can talk about?
Thank you. I have a couple of things tonight. So, member Tyson and I both took up Mrs. Lusky on her invitation to go to Popcorn Fridays, and that was really wonderful. Really great to see the kids over the lunch hour and see them in their native environment, So, and I asked her to share a little bit about Popcorn Fridays, and she said Popcorn Fridays started in 2019 as a way for our students to practice their communication, money, motor, and friendship skills while interacting in a positive way with their peers. She said we currently have around 30 students in our program who participate, making popcorn, cutting, and stapling, thank you, on the bags, measuring the popcorn and the oil, filling the bags, setting up and taking down the tables. And she said we've seen an increase in positive interactions between students and their peers in the classes, hallways, and in the lunchroom. And she says we are so proud of the work Forest Lake Rangers are doing for their school and for each other, so thank you so much for that. And then also, I happened to be subbing at Scandia Elementary on the day that the Forest Lake Area Children's Fund delivered the winter coats and the snow pants and the boots, and it was just so wonderful. Here comes Tracy Angelo and another staff member, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, came in with all these bags and dropped them all down in Miss Ashley's area there in the front, and I got to call down the students and show them, here is your new winter coat and your new snow pants and your boots. They were so excited, and the one kid put his coat on because they wanted us to have him try it on, don't take it home if it doesn't fit. And this kid tried it on, he's like, oh, Miss Jill, it's so fuzzy, and they were just so excited. So I asked Mr. McKinnon about it, and he said that, so it's called the Forest Lake Area Children's Fund, and they're known in the community as the Winter Clothing or the Coat Fund. It's a nonprofit organization with the sole mission to provide new winter clothing to elementary age children in need, and the students are currently enrolled in Forest Lake area schools. The board is made up of a few staff members and a few community members, and with the generous monetary donations from the community, we purchase new winter clothing for families who give us a winter clothing request. So some might want a jacket, or some might just want the boots. And he said each year they fill around 200 requests for the Forest Lake Area Elementary School. So it was really super rewarding to just happen to be there and see that. So there's a few positive things that we don't often hear about. So thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, so thank you. We had a lot of fun, Member Christensen and I, at the Popcorn Friday, and I was just so struck at all the interactions going on between all the students coming up and the big smiles on faces, getting their popcorn bag, and, oh, do you have another dollar? And people sharing their dollars, and Jill shared her dollar with me. I got to remember my dollars. But anyway, it was just a great vibe in our whole cafeteria area that I just embraced. I met the new dean. She was working that day, hearing her story about how it's just been such a great experience being at Forest Lake Area School. She was at Anoka. And then I also got into the a la carte area and talked to the kitchen staff in there, and she said, you know, we make these, I'm like, those chicken salads are amazing. And she said, you know, they all go. They get these beautiful chicken salads after they get their meal. So it was just such a good vibe and so much fun in there that day. And I also met a new science teacher who was having great interactions with students in the areas, and it was fun to see them sitting in the booths and visiting, and it was just really so fun thinking about that bond that passed and redesigned that whole area and how conducive it is to the students and, you know, sitting together and palling around and enjoying each other's company. So that was wonderful. Another positive happening is I'll be picking up my beautiful poinsettia from the FFA greenhouse, and it's their fundraiser, and they're beautiful. I went to also a JV hockey game, and I got to see the Mallards come in and play for a little bit. That's our national youth team that's over there now, and they were very impressive as well. Also, what was the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, White Christmas this weekend. I've talked to a few parents and students that are in the play this weekend, and it's going to be beautiful. The costumes and all of that, they're being worked on by people from the programs at the church. So I hope everybody can take that in. And that concludes my positive happenings.
All right, thank you. All right, reports, workshops, and conferences, anyone? 9:16, Member Tyson.
Our meeting is next week, Wednesday, so I don't have a report, but I would like to report on the upcoming Inspire Connect Leading with Purpose. MSBA's conference, leadership conference, is coming up in January, and I hope that our new members coming on board are going to be partaking in that. Tomorrow, MSBA is hosting their delegate assembly where 130 school board members from around the state come and do some grassroots advocacy where resolutions are voted on. Rob is doing Forest Lake's resolution that was submitted for our pupil transportation to have that expanded from 35% to 70%. So we're looking forward to having that delegate assembly and shaping that platform for MSBA this year to go meet with the legislators. So, thank you.
Yeah. Buildings and grounds, Member Hagelin or Peterson?
All right, we had a Buildings and Grounds meeting. We actually had a very exciting one because we toured the locker room and the cafeteria area, both locker rooms over there that are up for getting remodeled. And wow, there's a real need over there.
Is this the high school?
At the high school, yeah. There's some areas that clearly, you know, locker rooms that have been in place for the better part of 6 decades and really need some help, and as well as some of the bathrooms in the cafeteria, and I'm excited for both of those. I hope that the future board continues forward with that project because there was some real need, and then we have some ongoing maintenance items that we talked about, as well as the well over at Columbus Elementary.
Thank you. City of Forest Lake, Member Christensen or Member Tyson?
Yeah, I was at the November 25th meeting. Actually, I watched it online, but they talked about the budget and some other things. But one of the main things that was super exciting at the very end of the meeting, they talked about there are 6 residential subdivisions in the inquiry stage in the city of Forest Lake. So that is super exciting. I hope they bring lots and lots of kids.
Yeah.
So that was very exciting. And the hometown holiday lighting is tomorrow night from 4:30 to 6:30. So, and Santa and Mrs. Claus will be there. So there you go. That concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Communications Committee, Member Hagelin or Peterson?
We talked about with the winter season coming up, email and telephone communications to go to parents to notify of any school closures or delays, and that was pretty much the extent of our discussion.
Thank you. Community education, Member Christensen, were you there?
Yep, I went to the meeting on November 18th. The Yes, and we talked about, we had a review of SAC with Nancy Seifert and her, talking about her staff there. Kyle Young, you probably know, took a job at the City of Forest Lake, and Jay Ekman, that's the name I was looking for, Jay Ekman has taken Kyle's position there. And Jay was the one that helped drop off the clothes with Tracy Angela. I knew it was there somewhere. Just basically really good things are happening and there's a lot of growth. So that concludes my report.
All right. Curriculum Instruction and Equity Committee, member Rabeline or Tyson?
I'll take that, but I do want to comment on my previous. Our Forest Lake High School cannery will be performing at the Leadership Summit this year for MSBA in January, so really excited about that. We'll be so looking forward to seeing them there. But anyway, our committee had an overview on the World's Best Workforce and the Achievement Integration program that we have here. We're in year 2 of a 3-year program. And actually the World's Best Workforce, this is the last year, it's changing over to Comprehensive Assessments and Civic Readiness Program. So we went over goals and some that were met. We highlighted that graduation rate has increased. I'm not going to quote that, but I don't know the amount, but it was very positive.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yep. And on the Finance Committee, I can give that report, or, okay. We had the FY24 audit report, and which looked really good, and the FY25 budget status. We talked about the Truth and Taxation meeting, which we had earlier tonight. Right. Policy Committee, member Christensen or Rabeline?
Sure, I can speak to that. So we actually had a really quick meeting a couple weeks ago. We talked about the transportation, employee drug, alcohol, and cannabis testing policy, the drug-free workplace and drug-free school policy, and the graduations policy. The majority of the updates were all statute-driven, so they were easy and short discussions to have, and they'll be on for first reading later tonight.
All right. Member Christensen, do you have a report for staff welfare?
I do, yeah. We talked at the staff welfare meeting on November 21st. We talked about the Reimagine 2025, some of the things that Principal Ernest touched on. Enrollment is trending up, which is really great news, and we talked about the legislative agenda in 2025.
All right, thank you. And Superintendent's report, Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Ernest and the work going on with Emily Stegmeyer and Director Renberg-Heidi leading the team at Forest Lake, Forest View with the Reimagine merger of Forest Lake and Forest View. That is, as you saw here with Mr. Ernest's report, really, really exciting work. I won't belabor the work that they're doing because you got a full report. There's an equal level of exciting work going on with the middle school as they prepare for 6th graders next year. We will bring to the December 19th board meeting a brief report from Jason Miller, the principal there, to give us a full update there with the exciting work happening with the middle school and 5th grade going as 6th graders to the middle school next year. Communication actually went out this afternoon to 5th grade families and 6th grade families with orientation dates that are taking place the 2nd week and 3rd week of January. So things are moving quickly and preparing kids for that transition. Some very exciting work there. We spent a full day this past Monday providing orientation for our new school board members, member Tessa Anderson and Mark Castle. Some really exciting work. Member Peterson, you talked those first days in orientation drinking from the fire hose. I don't want to speak for them because they were fully engaged in absorbing a lot of stuff, but it is a lot of information. We're also touring every school and building in the district. We were at Linwood and the high school earlier this week. We'll be at the rest of the schools next week and the following week, getting full tours of those schools. So they will be ready when they take their seat January 6th. And of course, other board members will provide support as they onboard and take their seats. And lastly, Member Tyson, you stole my thunder a little bit with the play White Christmas. Just a little more detail there. It opens tomorrow night at 7. Again, Saturday night at 7, 2 p.m. matinee on Sunday. again the following week, Friday, Saturday, 7 p.m. and Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, 2 p.m. matinee. Directed by our choir director, Deidre, and our music program, Gary Zumwalt, and a whole cast of kids being involved from set preparation to performance. So some really exciting work in our arts and really fine display. The holiday concert also taking place on December 19th. Hopefully we can get out of the board meeting quickly and get over to the concert. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. All right, do you have motion, or are there any items that people would like pulled from the consent agenda? If not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Action items. 8.1, donations.
Yeah, I've got the donations here. We have a donation for $10,883.98 from the Forest Lake Dance Team Booster Club for the 24-25 assistant coaches. A donation for $2,340 from the Forest Lake Red Line Club Girls Hockey Boosters for the coach bus to Duluth and Grand Rapids. We have the Forest Lake Red Line Club $1,196.25 for the coach bus to Brainerd. We have the Forest View PTA in the amount of $267 for the kindergarten Waldock field trip fees. We also have $220.75 from the Forest View PTA for the Forest View Elementary Kindergarten Waldock field trip transportation. We have a $20 donation from CAF American for Lion Lakes Elementary general use. We had some games donated by Lori Ellis, Linwood Sack, card games, deck of cards, and board games for student use. And I move we accept donations in a total of $14,927.98.
Second. Further discussion?
Always such a generous community. All that money comes out of the pockets of community members, right? Donations that go to them, and always so generous for all of our activities at the district. So I just want to thank the community at large for their generosity.
Well, the booster clubs have just been going busy, 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 as you can tell. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think anybody who's been involved with the booster club knows how hard it is to earn that money as a parent and a child. So thank you very much. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, donations are accepted. 8.2, accept the 2023-2024 financial audit. Member Redberg?
On an annual basis, school districts are required to complete a financial audit. Tonight, we have Jackie from our audit firm, MMKR, to present the FY24 audit to the board. We're super excited to be here in December. The last 2 years, we've been here in January, so a full month earlier. And just want to give a huge shout out to all of our staff involved, especially Maria Pronto, for all of her work to make this happen. And Jackie will review the information. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having me tonight. As Christy said, my name is Jackie Hego, and I'm the partner in charge of the district's audit, and here to present the audit results for the year ended June 30th, 2024. I was able to meet in detail with the Finance Committee meeting in November, just a few weeks ago it was. So we did go through the reports in detail at that meeting, so tonight will be a higher level review of the financial results. So my first slide here gives some information just on my role as an auditor. As an auditor, my role is to issue an opinion on the district's financial report. Since your district does receive more than $750,000 in federal funding, there's a separate audit of just the federal awards called the single audit. As part of the audit, then, we also review the internal controls and test compliance over the financial statement audit with that federal single audit, and then also with the Minnesota state laws and regulations. So each year, the Office of the State Auditor releases what's known as the Legal Compliance Manual, and as auditors, we're required to test the specific statutes that are in that manual from year to year. Moving on to the results of the audit, you're going to see they're all very good audit results for this year. The audit results over that district financial audit, we issued unmodified or clean opinions on that basic financial report. In the current year, if you are looking at that opinion, you're going to see that district was required to implement some new GASB guidance on group assets. And with that, districts are now required to capitalize or record any similar groups of assets into their financial records, even if individually those assets were less than the district's capitalization policy. So an example I always give is computers individually are less than the district's capitalization policy. Now, when you consider them in the aggregate, if they're significant, you're recording those as part of your financial records moving forward now, starting in the 24 year. For the audit opinions over the internal control and compliance of that financial audit, I had no material weaknesses or instances of non-compliance to report there. For those Minnesota legal compliance audit opinions, no findings or no instances of non-compliance. And for all the opinions over that single audit of federal awards, you're going to see they're all clean opinions. A clean opinion on that schedule of expenditures of federal awards, we call it the CFA, and no material weaknesses or instances of non-compliance with our federal testing of the specific programs. So all very good audit results for the 2024 year and all clean opinions. The next several slides then we'll go through some of the financial results for the year end 2024. This first slide here summarizes the general fund financial position, specifically showing the cash balance and that unrestricted fund balance for the past 10 years. For the 2024 year, the district ended with a cash and investment balance of about $18.7 million, saw an increase of about $9 million from the prior year. Overall, the total general fund balance ended the year at about $7.5 million, which was an increase of about $7.2 million from the prior year. And that was compared to an increase projected in the budget of about $6.6 million. This slide then summarizes the fund balance of the general fund by the various components given 5 years of trend analysis. So like I said, for the 2024 year, that total fund balance of the general fund ended the year at about $7.5 million. When you look at the various components of fund balance, you see about $170,000 in non-spendable. That represents any items that are prepaid at year end they're already prepaid for the future year. The restricted fund balance at year end is about $2.2 million. Most of that is restricted for future long-term facility maintenance. I will comment on that restricted amount the district will be receiving future levy adjustments, so you can't necessarily spend that amount because there are some future levy adjustments coming through to offset those dollars. At year end, there's about $177,000 in assigned fund balance. That's dollars that are all assigned for future severance obligations. And then that leaves about $5 million in the unassigned fund balance at year end, which represents about 5.7% of the expenditures of the general fund. This next slide then summarizes a graph of the adjusted ADM and the pupil units served by the district for the past 10 years. The estimated ADM that was used to close out the revenues for the 24 audit was about 5,660. That is a decrease of about 120 ADM, or about 2.1% from the prior year. The next two slides are going to focus specifically on the general fund revenues and expenditures. This first one showing the general fund revenues, the current year actual comparing to prior year actual, as well as comparing it to budget. Overall, the general fund revenues ended the year at about $94 million, which was about $1.5 million over the final budget. When you're looking at that budget variance, you saw your other local sources about $720,000 over budget. Most of that is just due to conservative budgeting for those other charges and fees, which are difficult to predict from one year to the next. You also saw your state sources about $370,000 over budget, mainly in state special education aid. When you're comparing current year to prior year, so your general fund revenues increased about $8.1 million. That was an increase in several areas. You saw property taxes going up with that increase in the levy. State sources saw a significant increase just with funding improvements in general education as well as special education funding. And then you saw some increase in that other local sources, mainly just due to improved investment earnings in the current year compared to prior year. Similar graph here, just showing those general fund expenditures of the district. Overall, the general fund expenditures were about $88.2 million. about 2.4 million over that final budget. A couple of the budget variances, you're seeing your employee benefits about $1 million over budget, just in health insurance costs. And also capital expenditures were about 1.4 million over budget. Most of that is due to new leases that the district recognized in the current year that weren't included in the budget, but those do have an offsetting revenue stream, so they do net to zero overall in the general fund, just comparing it to budget. You're comparing current year to prior year, you saw your general fund expenditures decrease about $1 million. Most of that is in that capital expenditures. You're seeing about a 4.5 million decrease. The timing of those long-term facility maintenance projects from one year to the next. And then that was offset by, you saw your salaries and benefits increased, mainly just with negotiated contract changes and increased health insurance costs in 2024. The slide here shows a couple of the other operating funds, other governmental funds the district has, specifically that food service special revenue fund and the community service special revenue fund. Both of them you can see had positive operations. You're seeing the food service fund end of the year with an increase in fund balance of just under 490,000. That was compared to a planned increase of about 200,000 in the budget. If you are looking at that fund, you're going to see some budget variances when you're looking at your revenues and expenses. Most of that is due to the changes in the state legislation and now providing free meals to all students. That was difficult for districts to budget what was that participation level going to be in the current year. But year-end positive operations ended the year with a fund balance of about 1.2 million in the food service fund. Community service fund also saw the positive operations with an increase in that fund balance of about 150,000, and that was compared to a budget that did project a decrease of about 260,000. You saw your revenues coming in over budget, mainly in the state sources and with some investment earnings. And expenditures were under budget, mainly in salaries and benefits. Ended the year with a year-end fund balance of about 1.7 million. Before I do get to the last slide that I have here, I do just want to comment on one of the other funds. The district does have a couple internal service funds that do record the activity of the health and dental benefits. At year end, that net position in that dental benefit fund was about 425,000. And then the health fund at year end had a deficit of about 2.7 million. We did talk about this at the finance committee meeting as well, but just to remind the district to continue to monitor that fund, continue to review your health insurance premiums and charges, and have a plan to continue to eliminate that deficit as you move forward. And then going through the last slide I have here, it summarizes the district-wide statement of net position. So in the financial reports, you see all the funds of the district, and they roll up into what we consider a second reporting layer at the front of that financial report. We call it full accrual financial statements. It includes all your capital asset activity as well as any long-term liabilities that the district has to show a snapshot of net position at year end. So overall at year end, the net position ended the year with an increase of about 14 million. If you look at the bottom portion of that table, you're seeing most of that's in the unrestricted category. Most of that is just due to the changes in the PERA and the TRA pension plans. Local governments are required to report your unfunded pension liability in your financial report. And those liabilities swing from year to year based on investment performance. So you're seeing that the increase in the current year there, and that is consistent with what we're seeing at all the other local governments as well. So with that, I can open it up if there are any questions.
My question would be, sounds like good news.
Yeah, all very positive operating results, all clean audit opinions for the year in 2024 as well.
I just wanted to summarize. Would you have any recommendations for the board to look at over the next year to even 3 or 5 years?
I think one of the items that I did comment on towards the end of the presentation is those internal service funds and monitoring that health benefit internal service fund specifically. It does have that deficit of 2.7 million. So making sure the district does have a plan to continue to eliminate that deficit as you continue to move forward.
I just want to thank you for all of your work on this and thank your staff for all of the work. I know how big a job those audits can be, and This year I didn't have the pleasure of talking to you during the audit, but I'm sure Rob did. And I'm just working with you guys throughout the years has been great. And it's nice to be, as we leave the board, see a nice positive audit with a fund balance in there. So.
We certainly appreciate your thorough review. We've had an excellent relationship with MMKR, and your professionalism is just astounding, and we appreciate that so much. You know, and we definitely want to thank our business director and her staff. They made a joke that bring their slippers, because it's a long process, and they work tirelessly to get all their ducks in a row. So thank you, Chrissy, and thank your staff as well. With that health insurance deficit, you projected, I mean, we're already working on that, but you projected how long will that continue?
Yeah.
Or maybe
Yeah, so we are monitoring that, and we believe that'll be between 3 and 5 years to be able to do that. Yeah, it's really important that we know premiums affect our employees, and so we want to make sure to do this gradually to not affect them in a big way.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead.
Just had a question and a comment. So just looking at our fund balance in 2024, it's really the healthiest it's been in a decade, which is great news, but we're still significantly below the state. So that's something to be working on too. But I was also wondering where it said, on page 10, it said that unrestricted, it should be 5.9% of the annual expenditures or approximately 3 weeks of operations. And is that typical, or and how should we be thinking about that with declining enrollment? How should we be thinking about that?
Yeah, well, I'd say if you're looking at page 10 of the report, we put that in there just to give some reference of, what your fund balance would represent about 3 weeks of operations. I don't believe the district currently has a fund balance policy in place, but is working at putting one in place to continue to monitor that. There are rules of thumbs, I think the GFOA says about 5 to 10%.
Yeah, that was my
And another organization gives the 8 to 16%, 1 to 2 months of operations. Okay. So those are a couple of rule of thumbs.
Okay, thank you.
And I do just need to do a reminder that we do have that long-term facility maintenance adjustment that Jackie mentioned in her report coming through in the future. So that will affect the total fund balance in the future. So we'll be seeing that coming through FY 26.
Thank you.
And I would just comment, I think that it's always nice to see that we've got an audit that comes out as well as this, because it shows that, it doesn't make values judgments about the way we spend money, but it does show that when we look at the money that we have and the way it flows through this district, that we can trust that it's accurate and it's been managed in a systematic and transparent way. And I think that that's critical for our district, because it shows that we can have trust in the way the money is accounted for. And so it's just really nice to know that the work that Director Renberg's group does is done in a way that we can trust it. And then as a board, as the board makes decisions about it, they can have that sense of yeah, this is the numbers that we can trust and rely on. And so, yeah, it's just really nice to see it. So I want to thank you guys for that work. All right.
Yeah, with that, administration would recommend approval.
All right. Do we have a motion to accept the 2023-2024 financial audit? So moved.
Second.
One following comment. Thank you for reminding me to have a motion. Are there any further comments? If not, Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Yes. Member Christensen votes aye. Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Reveline?
Aye.
Member Corcoran is absent. Member Hagelin?
Aye.
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye. All right, agenda item 8.3, resolution establishing combined polling places for multiple precincts and designating hours during which the polling places will remain open for voting for school district elections not held on the day of a statewide election. Superintendent?
So before I give the background, understand that there is no planned or scheduled election next November. That could change, but at this point, there is no scheduled election next year. But in the event that there should be, we need to have precincts identified, combined precincts identified by December 31st. And that's in relation to an election law passed in 2017. And after consulting with election officials in Washington, Chisago, and Anoka counties, we are recommending the precincts that you see in your packet. There are 10 of those in total. Some of those are combined polling locations. So administration would recommend the adoption of the resolution in front of you, establishing the combined polling places and designated hours during which the polling places will remain open for voting and school district elections not held on the day of a statewide election.
Move to approve A3.
Second. Discussion? If there's no discussion, do we do a voice vote?
I think a voice vote is fine.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Certified 2024 property tax payable in 2025, Director Renberg.
On an annual basis, the school board is directed to approve the levy. We had wonderful time twice tonight to be able to see the numbers, just to review them a third time. It is a 2.7% increase in the levy of about $913,000. Again, tax base wise, we look for houses that are under that 300,000 mark if their property value stayed the same to see a savings in their property taxes, and a minimal increase for the houses over that. So with that, administration would recommend the proposed levy, again, of 2.7%.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Discussion? If there's no discussion, Member Clerk, please take a roll call.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Christensen votes aye. Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Eberline?
Aye.
Member Corcoran is absent. Member Hagelin?
Aye.
Member Peterson?
Aye.
The motion's approved. All right, 8.5, duties of the school board officers, policy 104.
This policy is obviously part of the 100 series, which is related to school board operations. And this policy defines duties of school board officers. The policy committee did have this on the agenda and had some conversation. I know there's been additional conversation at this table. The noted changes here are related to item 1 that defines different functions of the board and processes for the board as it relates to Minnesota statute. Administration would recommend approval, but I know there's also question or conversation yet here at the board table.
I'd actually like to move to command.
What?
To command. Meeting, sending it back to the committee.
Yeah, or table it and send it back to the committee. I think I had some discussion with Member Raveline and Member Peterson about how the 100s really would be valuable coming before the board for discussion and then going to the committee, because they do excellent work. They might see things we don't, but when it pertains to our work, it just makes sense that we have a discussion. And I think 104, after looking at model policy 202 of MSBA's and a couple of colleagues from other districts, it just could, some of our policies really need some updating of the language, being vice chair and chair instead of president. And then I think in the way it's written right now, it doesn't say that our terms will be 1 year, and it leaves out that the clerk will need to preside over the meeting in the absence of the vice chair and the chair. So I think I second that. We'll commit it, we'll send it back, and we should take some time. We talked about doing it on the second meeting of the month and spreading it out a little so that we could have some board discussion around the 100s. So that's what I would recommend.
It doesn't seem that controversial to me. What would the committee be able to do that we couldn't do tonight?
Well, I think we need to add some more language to it, like what I said in the last meeting and I said tonight. And I also think that some of the wording and the language in here around the passing out of diplomas for previous members, that's not really a governing duty. That is something that, you know, the board do as volunteering and being asked by administration and the high school senior class to come and do that. So I don't know if that needs to be in this policy, so I think it just could use more discussion. I'd like to get more feedback from the other board members.
I don't know, I mean, I think if people are comfortable with that, those things can be resolved in committee, that's okay, I guess.
I can speak to that a little bit further and even play a couple of my cards here. Is I've actually been looking really close at the whole 100 series. I found some inconsistencies in the 100 series with state statute. Some of those policies haven't been updated since the early 90s. So I'm actually working on a full restack rewrite of that and working with the policy committee on that. Member Tyson, Member Christensen, Member Hagland, and the incoming board members to really look at that whole series and hopefully pass it as a comprehensive group. Because as Member Tyson pointed out, there's some outdated language in the policies, there's some inconsistencies with how these things tie together. Now that said, I proposed the changes that we're looking at in 104, and I really like them. I would like to codify the graduation requirements, not because I feel it's a governance thing, but I feel it sets out a process or a procedure for board members to understand when they're on the board, when they leave the board, how they would interact with the current board to be part of that graduation ceremony, how the board would work with the principal to make that happen. I think that's important language, and I want to keep it going forward. But as Member Tyson said, it opened a can of worms, and I'd like to make sure we do a thorough job of really understanding what the can of worms is, making sure we close it correctly, and that all of those pieces are accounted for. So that's why I'm moving to commit it, not because I think it's a bad idea, quite the opposite. I just think it needs a little bit more work.
Any further discussion?
Well, the only thing I want to add, Member Chair, is that we're talking about bringing them on the second meeting, the 100, so that the board can have discussion and get feedback from each other.
Okay.
Instead of, and then maybe going to committee after that.
Okay, sounds good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, it's committed. We're committed. All right, 8.6, purchase of supplies, equipment, or services policy 303.
The purchase of supplies, equipment, or services identifies the different dollar amounts for those services or contracts that require different bid processes. So you can see in the policy that there's changes from the bidding of contracts that exceed $100,000 now. The limit is $175,000. That would require sealed bids. Contracts exceeding $25,000 would require 2 or more quotes. And contracts less than $25,000 would be negotiated through administration. And administration would recommend those changes to the policy.
Move to approve. Discussion? If there's no discussion, Member Clerk, please take a roll call.
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Christensen votes aye. Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Ebeline?
Aye.
Member Corcoran is absent. Member Hagelin?
Aye. Great, thank you. 8.7, harassment and violence policy 425.
The purpose of this policy is to maintain a learning and working environment that is free from harassment, violence, malicious and sadistic conduct based on race, color, creed, religion, national origin, sex, age, marital status, familial status, status with regard to public assistance, sexual orientation, including gender identity or disability, protected class, and to prohibit sexual exploitation. This policy requires an annual review, which the policy committee has conducted, and we bring to you tonight for your approval changes with respect to familial language related to familial status and further definition with respect to, again, familial status. With those changes, administration would recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
I have one brief comment on this policy. It's been an obvious point of contention for some community members, and I just want to remind the community, although the school board is elected, we're here to be your voice. Sometimes we don't have a lot of choice in the matter. We have a lot of statutes, state statute, federal laws that guide us in the work that we do. This policy is very reflective of a lot of those state and federal requirements. The changes we're talking about tonight are actually driven from statute. So just something to keep in mind when interacting on policies like this is that sometimes the school board enacts things that we're driven to by statute, and we're the wrong people to contact. You need to contact the legislature. So just a community reminder on that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, this policy actually brings a lot of value to the district. Making sure that we create an environment free from harassment, bullying, et cetera, so that students can be here to learn is super important. And I think with the discussions that happened at the last board meeting and what we heard here tonight, it solidifies the need for a policy like this, because it's clear that not everybody's moral compass is pointed in the same direction. And so, we obviously had a community member here last board meeting who used some disgusting language and frankly was insulting to a whole group of people. And I hope we don't ever see that again, but certainly none of our students should see that in the classroom, in the hallways, at a football game, at any other event that we have here. And so having a policy like this creates clear expectations for both people and community members at large is super important for the district.
All right, any further discussion? If not, Member Clerk, could you please take a roll call?
Member Hagelin?
Aye.
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Christensen votes aye. Excuse me. Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Ebeline?
Aye.
Member Corcoran is absent.
Motion approved. 8, Family and Medical Leave Policy 428.
Purpose of this policy is to provide for family and medical leave to school district employees in accordance with the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993 and also with parenting leave under state law. This policy needs to be reviewed at least annually for compliance with state and federal law. After the policy committee review, they would make no recommendations for changes, but still need your approval.
All right, do you have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Not, Member Clerk, please take a roll call.
Member Corcoran is absent. Member Hagelin?
Aye.
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Christensen votes aye. Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Ebeline?
Aye.
All right, thank you. New business, 9-1, first reading of the 2018 operating levy renewal. Superintendent?
The district's current operating levy was passed by referendum in 2018. The levy rate is currently $986.67 per pupil and generates around $6 million per year in general operating revenue for the school district. The levy is set to expire at the end of the 2027 school year. The 2023 legislature granted school boards authority to renew an existing levy under Minnesota Statute 126C.17, subdivision 9B. The statute states, the school board may renew an expiring referendum by board action if the per pupil amount of the referendum is the same as the amount expiring, the tier of the renewed referendum is no longer than the initial term approved by the voters, the school board, having taken a recorded vote, has adopted a written resolution authorizing the renewal after holding a meeting and allowing public testimony on the proposed renewal. And should that proceed and move forward from this meeting, a hearing would be set for the January 2nd board meeting. The expiring referendum has not been previously renewed under this subdivision. The resolution must be adopted by the school board by June 15th of any calendar year and become effective 60 days after its adoption. The referendum expires at the last fiscal year in which the referendum generates revenue for the school district. The school board may renew an existing referendum under this subdivision not more than 2 fiscal years before the referendum expires. A district renewing an expiring referendum under this subdivision must submit a copy of the adapted resolution to the Commissioner of Education and to the county auditor no later than September 1st of the calendar year in which the written resolution is adopted.
Right? And I also like to say that, you know, in Minnesota, city and county boards are given the ability to levy according to the needs of their citizens. School districts generally cannot. This creates kind of deep inequalities in outer ring and rural communities that have less commercial property tax base. The legislature continues to limit the ability of school boards to levy, but recently gave school boards with existing levies the ability to renew those levies without the expense of running a voter-approved levy campaign, which can run over $100,000. Bottom line, renewal of the existing levy through this action will result in a 0% increase in property taxes. Non-renewal will cut approximately $6 million from our budget. As you can imagine, academic achievement, student choices, and the ability to reach every student would be devastated by cutting of around 100 employees, which a $6 million cut would require. The timing of this action is to ensure that the budgets for the next 2 years can rely on this money as a stable baseline when budgeting. Again, renewal of the existing levy will result in a 0% increase in property taxes. Non-renewal will cut approximately $6 million from the operating budget, resulting in cuts to staff of around 100 people that are for the most part directly tied to student learning. Raising the money through voter approval would cost around $100,000 for the election and the Vote Yes committee, and in the end, the result would either be a 0% increase in taxes, which can be done through this motion, or a cut of $6 million to our budget. This will be coming before the board at the January 2nd meeting, at which time there will be an opportunity for citizen input. This is the first reading, so please refrain from debate, but are there any questions that members would like to have answered by the administration before this comes to the board on January 2nd?
Well, I think it would be helpful to have a total of dollars spent on campaigns that we've run, because we ran a lot of them for 12 years and beyond. So I don't know how difficult that would be, but I would like to see those dollars, because I think in essence the legislators are saying, don't spend your money because this data shows that they pass. So I want to see what we've spent, if that's possible.
I can tell you, we've done the research on the cost to run a referendum in a non-election year, statewide election year, and the cost to the district at that point 2 years ago was $50,000. So those costs, and those costs certainly could have gone up between then and now, and those costs are primarily related to the various jurisdictions holding the election. There's the added cost of the Vote Yes campaign or other campaigns. I don't have those numbers to present, but the district cost to conduct the campaign and have the counties run those on our behalf is approximately $50,000.
So looking back, there isn't really a way to look at that community.
As board members, we could invite previous Vote Yes chairs or whatever to come and speak on those costs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
What is the cost per student to maintain all the services and coursework that we have today?
The total cost per student? I'd have to dig into the audit to get that number. You're looking at the overall general operating budget divided by number of students. I can get that number.
Compared to what the levy provides.
The levy is 986 of that amount. So that number, I can't imagine Director Renberg Heidi has that number at the top of her head,
but we can
No,
provide
but
it
if
for
you do,
me.
yeah, see the management report.
Yeah, that number is identified there. Again, 986 would be a portion of that full.
You mentioned off-year cycle elections. What if we do it on an even year?
Yeah, it's a much reduced cost at that point. When we looked at that number, it was close to $10,000 to $12,000 because the counties are holding the elections for many other offices. So we'd share and participate in that cost, but it wouldn't be the full cost.
Thank you. All right, so if people think of any questions they have for the administration, let them know, and we'll be seeing that on January 2nd. All right, 9.2, first reading of the Transportation Employee Drug, Alcohol, and Cannabis Testing Policy 313.
All school district transportation employees whose positions require a commercial driver's license will be required to undergo drug and alcohol testing and cannabis testing in accordance with federal law and the applicable provisions of this policy. Again, this is the first reading, so I would just have you look at the changes. There's only one change, and it's a reference to a statute on page 2 of the policy.
And 9.3, first reading of the drug-free workplace and drug-free school policy.
The purpose of this policy is to maintain a safe and healthy environment for employees and students by prohibiting the use of alcohol, toxic substances, medical cannabis, non-intoxicating cannabis, edible cannabis products, controlled substances without a physician's prescription. The change on this policy you'll find on page 3, and it's the clarification regarding added protection for those who are part of the Minnesota Patient Registry Program.
Okay, thank you. And the first reading of the graduation requirements policy 613.
The purpose of this policy is to set forth the requirements for graduation from the school district. The school district only identifies the required credits for graduation, those being credits pertaining to grades 9 through 12. This policy currently identifies the courses and related credits for grades 7 and 8, which are not germane to this policy. So the recommendation would be to strike the credits identified for grades 7 and 8, to strike those from this policy, just to clean up this policy and make it relevant and related to grades 9 through 12.
All right. Well, everybody, please review upcoming calendar dates. And with that, we have a motion to adjourn. So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thanks, everyone.